I've seen some editing videos recently, and they're all great, don't get me wrong, lots of good information, but these videos cover a lot of the basics for good video editing, and that's it. But what about all of the other stuff? Like, where do you even get sounds from, or music? And how do you find presets or even make them? And most importantly, where do you get a transparent image of Peter Griffin for that one cut that you have in mind? So today I wanted to talk about the small stuff, little things that our skills editors accumulate but don't really tend to talk about as much since they aren't life-changing things that you could start using immediately. So let's just start with Peter Griffin, or rather, PNGs. Well, specifically transparent PNGs. If you look up the thing you're trying to find, the chances are you'll get a PNG with a background. Or worse, a PNG that looks like it's transparent, but it's not actually transparent. Yeah, this is fucking evil, by the way. What do? How do I always have a transparent image for everything? Well, I've got 2 tips for you. First of all, learn how to find them. Of course, you can always add with transparency to your search, and a lot of the time you will actually get that. But sometimes, especially for logos and official images, you can just add wiki to your search, and 9 times out of 10, Wikipedia will have the version with transparency, and you can just grab it from there easily. But what do you do if it's not transparent? Well, you make it transparent. No one wants to talk about this skill though because it's boring, so here's how you would do it. First, download the image and import it into an art editing software of choice. If you don't have Photoshop, there are free options like GIMP or Fire Alpaca. Whatever app you're using, there's like a couple different ways that you could go about doing this. The easiest one is that you could just use the equivalent of the magic wand tool and select the background and then delete it. Otherwise, you could use something like the color range selector and grab the background color, except the problem with this is that sometimes if the character or thing that you're trying to keep by itself has those same colors in it, you might need to grab the selector tool and hold the Alt button while you're selecting the inner parts to get rid of them from the selection. And that way they'll stay when you delete the background. If you need to do like manual selecting too in Photoshop, there's a thing called the magnetic lasso tool. I think VtubeStudio also has this. So there are lots of different ways that you can grab the background. And also, if you go ahead and try to delete the background, it might yell at you if you imported the image. And that's because it's been imported as an object, not just like pure pixels. So you can right click and rasterize the image and then you'll be able to delete it, or you could otherwise just mask it out if you want to keep the background for future purposes or something. Also, if you delete the background and it looks fucked up and weird and shitty, you can always just Control-Z to undo it, and then you can do a few different things to adjust the selection itself to make it look a little bit cleaner when you delete it. So you could do things like adjusting the selection by expanding it or contracting it by a few pixels. Or there's also the option to feather it, and that will give it kind of this fuzzy or blurred border that sometimes looks better than the really choppy result if you don't do that. But of course, if you delete the background and it looks terrible, you can always just take an eraser and just remove the extra stuff as well. All you have to do after that point is export the image as a PNG and then drop it into your video. But wait, stop. What the are you, where are you exporting that to? Go in your main drive and make an editing folder right now. You need to have an organized library. I know organization can be tedious and annoying, but it is worth it, especially if you want to take editing seriously. I would have an images folder, a memes folder, a green screen folder, stock images, editing sounds, backed up presets. Pretty much anything you could include in a video should be organized in here in its own place. It's a great idea to start keeping all of your favorites in one location, and if you're a VTuber like myself, having some stock images and emote files also helps out a ton. And of course, be sure to name the files appropriately. Don't just download them and name them ABQZ5HH7 because you won't be able to find them later. And I myself never do this because I'm a professional editor. But also, if you have a hard time finding files, you should definitely download the Everything app. This isn't like sponsored by Everything, by the way. It's a file searching software, except unlike Windows search, it doesn't fucking suck. So if you can't find something, this is always there for you in a pinch. So yeah, having good organization is a skill and it's key for fast editing. But let's talk about audio for a second here. Starting with sound effects. Where do you even get them from? Well, there are mega sound effect packs out there that you can just find by searching for them. But there are also websites like my instance, and those host a ton of sounds, and you can just search up the name directly and download it from the website. And that way you don't have to download a bunch bunch of sounds that you maybe don't want. Things like trending audios or sounds that are on TikTok can be hard to find sometimes, especially when they're new. So if you want, you can just screen record it on your phone and then send that to yourself via email, or you could download a TikTok video directly using that audio. And if the video that you found the audio on doesn't let you download it, you can click on the sound and then find somebody that will let you download their video. And then you can just use the audio from that video as your sound. Of course, you can also pull up all of these on YouTube, given you know what to search for, but sometimes you'll get a result with a Google link or some even sketchier website for you to download the file from. And I wouldn't recommend doing that. I'm not going to go into detail, but hypothetically speaking, if there was a way for you to download YouTube videos and could instead run it from your console on your computer, that would be a lot safer and easier. But it's not something I can really get into right now, so feel free to do your research on your own. You would, of course, still need to make sure the usage rights are okay, like the author saying that it's free to use, or it being under a free license. And that leads us into music as well. Music is an interesting topic because it can totally ruin your life if you aren't careful. There's kind of like 3 areas for music selection when it comes to editing, so I'll kind of talk about all of those and where you can get them from. First of all, safe music. Then you've also got gray area music. And then finally, there's your definitely sketchy to use, don't fucking use this kind of music. So yeah, for the third one, just don't put popular, heavily copyrighted music and gate-kept music in your videos. Like, just don't do that. No Beyonce, no Taylor Swift. That's not background audio, guys. But as far as safe music goes, this is music that you can either obtain a license for, like Epidemic Sound, which I'm not sponsored by or anything, but you can basically pay a monthly fee and then be free from legal trouble or issues with your channel. Alternatively, there are some artists or services like Streambeats, for example, which will let you use their music completely for free, sometimes with no requirements, or sometimes with something as simple as just leaving an attribution in your description. Lastly, the gray area stuff. This is where it gets kind of complicated, and it's never truly gray area in the sense that you're protected and not protected simultaneously. It's more like you'll probably be fine, but you're definitely not safe. And this is stuff like redacted music or other video game music. So can you use it? Well, so if you own the game and paid for the game and played it on stream with the music playing, in theory, it shouldn't be a problem. You paid for the game. And with Redacted and a lot of other companies, gameplay is fine. Usually it doesn't even flag the gameplay audio, although it can and has before, especially back in ye olden days. So less as much nowadays, but it can always be a problem if you don't stay within their fair use zone. So the same thing kind of exists on YouTube for content that isn't gameplay. So if I post a video with redacted music in it, it might get flagged, but it also might not. So can you use it? Legally, you have no grounds to, and no safety if you get caught doing it, so I can't exactly recommend that to you. And pretty much all the tracks for these games can be found on YouTube from people who have ripped the game files themselves. Generally speaking, it's the same thing with sounds. There's usually a sketchy download link, but there are other things that you can do to not deal with that. There are some games/game developers who own the copyright to their music, but they'll say that they're okay with it being used. And generally it's fine, but it doesn't necessarily protect you from getting flagged for copyright either. Their good faith doesn't always keep you safe from the inevitable shitty content flagging AI that YouTube uses. This applies to people like 𝗦𝘂𝗽𝗽 or Concerned Ape. So can you use their music? Yeah, but it's not really recommended, and it's not really the best option. But surely this is better than redacted. As for where to get this stuff legitimately, the free or paid services usually offer direct downloads, but you can always choose to support independent creators that allow free use and just send them money for their honorable offer. But knowing what you're allowed to use and aren't allowed to use, or even how to obtain background music, is something that I get asked all the time, so I hope that this helps. Now, editing itself is a whole separate beast that deserves its own video, so I guess let me know if you want me to make one of those editing videos too, but like I said, this video is not about that. It's about the little stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and one of those things is presets. Editing involves a ton of cuts and adjustments to individual chunks of a video. Stuff like zooming in, sliding in new sources, warping stuff, adjusting color, and so on. And it gets pretty complicated pretty fast, which is why people make presets, which apply those things in a single drag and drop. Without a preset, you obviously just have to learn that skill. So you have to get really good at searching up a topic and get this guy's locking in for 10 or 20 minutes to learn that skill. Sometimes it's even less or sometimes it's more, but you have to learn each thing one at a time. And hunting down a tutorial for the skill that you need is also a skill in itself, more on that in a bit. But the good news is that if you do it once, you can usually save it as a preset and then never have to worry about it again. For example, if I want to make my character do a little bounce, I can hit the animate button, squash it, move forward a few keys, stretch it, move forward, reset it, add some easing in, and wow, look at that, a little bounce. And now all I have to do is right-click the motion setting and save it as a preset. And now anytime I pop this PNG of myself into my timeline, I have this bounce preset for myself. And while creating presets might work a little bit differently in something like DaVinci Resolve, you definitely have the ability to do that, and it will save you loads of time if you do that consistently. Of course, there are also free preset packs out there as well, which you can start using by importing the pack into your editing app. But you should definitely know how to use presets and how to make them, and if you don't, you're just going to start eating up way too much time. But more importantly, you need to know how to actually research the skills to make new presets and learn how to do new edits. That's another skill in itself. You need to get really good at using proper keywords to find a tutorial for learning new edit skills. You need to watch other videos and take mental notes, if not literal physical notes, about some of the cuts and edits they used so that you can learn yourself. But research doesn't just apply to making interesting edits, it also applies to getting some of the things we previously talked about, like sound effects, presets, and images for editing. You'll get better at it over time, but one of the best research skills I can pass on to you is using operators on Google when you're searching for stuff like this. For example, if you want information on a specific thing, like your Premiere Pro crashing, you can use quotation marks and it'll search for the exact phrase. Or if you want to avoid as many slop images as you can use the before and minus operators to find images that existed before the AI boom and remove any results that contain an explicit AI label. It's really helpful when you're trying to hunt things down to be good at actually searching for those things. And Google is way worse than it used to be, so it's even harder to find what you're looking for now. So just get organized, get better at researching, learn a little bit of Photoshop, and then all those other magic editing tips might seem a little bit less daunting since you'll actually have a good foundation in order to focus on them. Nothing is worse than when you pull up an editing tutorial and they're like, here's how to animate this PNG, and you're like, I don't know where to get those from. So let me know if you guys want more editing videos that are on the bigger things, I guess, and otherwise I will see you in the next one. Bye!